Emergency Management in Canada by Bobby Barlow. Canada is the second largest country in size, consisting of 3 territories, which derive their power from the federal government, and 10 provinces, which derive their power from the Constitution Act. The Canadian government has a Government Operations Centre that is the hub of their national emergency management system, and has a network of 11 regional offices and 2 satellite offices across Canada. Each province and territory also has its own emergency management organization. The individual EMOs offer preparation information for the individual regions and are familiar with the hazards and risks specific to their regions. Canada depends on the process referred to as the critical infrastructure, by which the entire infrastructure of the country runs efficiently and effectively. This process can be both standalone or interconnected and interdependent within and across the local government and international borders. This risk-based approach for strengthening Canada's resiliency is comprised of a National Strategy and Action Plan. The National Strategy establishes a collaborative that focuses on partnerships, risk management, and information sharing. The action plan is the blueprint for how the national strategy will be implemented. The action plan stipulates that in an emergency situation, the first response is the responsibility of the municipalities, and at the provincial and territorial levels, as most disasters often occur locally. However, both local and federal governments recognize that the initial response will be that of the citizens themselves, and relies on the private sector's involvement in planning and implementation. When the government is overwhelmed or has a critical infrastructure failure, they are expected to request federal assistance, at which time the federal government steps in. As such, Canadian emergency management follows the bottom-up implementation pattern. Some obstacles Canadian emergency management are at the local governments not requesting needed for help, and the federal government not responding in a timely manner. Emergency Management Act of 2007 is imperative to Canadian emergency management for 2 reasons. The Act sets forth the specific roles of the federal ministers across the full spectrum of emergency management, and was an important step towards strengthening Canada's emergency management, including ensuring that they are prepared for all stages of disaster planning, response, and recovery. It sets forth 4 main responsibilities, including giving responsibility to the Minister of Public Safety for national leadership. It establishes roles and responsibilities of federal ministers. Excuse me. It allows for a collaborative approach with both local governments and the private sector, including NGOs, and it provides the authority to coordinate Canada's response to emergencies faced by the United States. Canadian government works with the following NGOs: the Canadian Red Cross, the St. John Ambulance, the Salvation Army, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs. The steps Canada has taken in recent years to improve their disaster management are a result of the countless disasters the country has experienced in the past, especially natural disasters. Canada is prone to many natural disasters as well as technological and terrorist disasters. The map shown on the screen is a historical map of the significant natural disasters that have occurred. Canada is prone to many different natural disasters. Blizzards, most common in eastern Canada, southern Ontario, and Quebec. Earthquakes, the most dangerous of natural disasters. The areas that are most susceptible to major earthquakes are West Coast and the St. Lawrence Valley. Floods, which are the most costly disasters in terms of property damage for Canada. They can affect any region at any time of year, and the most common cause of the floods is the accumulation of water precipitation. The worst flood in recent history was the Manitoba Red River flood of May 1997. Hail, which is most common in Alberta and the southern prairies and southern Ontario. Icebergs, sea ice, and fog, most prevalent in northern Canada near the Arctic. The Ontario-Quebec ice storm in 1998, which caused 25 deaths. Landslides and snow avalanches, which there are 8 different types. Tornadoes, which are experienced more in Canada than any other country with the exception of the United States. Tsunamis and storm surges. The earliest known is November 18, 1929, and volcanic eruptions. They've only had one in recent history, but many different volcanoes lie dormant in the western Canadian area, and the entire western Cordillera area is geographically active. In this slide are pictures of the Manitoba's Red River floods that have been experienced over several different decades during Canada's history. This slide shows the link for Canada's Federal Emergency Response Plan that is used in the country.